Well, can't say I came to Atlanta because I was born and reared here.
When I became Muslim, she said to me, listen, I know about Islam through the Nation of Islam. And people who become Muslim, I've known of people who became Muslim in jail and people who had a hard life who became Muslim, and Islam turned them around. So it's a good religion. It's a good religion because it makes bad people into good people. But you're already good, you don't need it.
When we walked down the street, people knew if they were doing something, stop. Because our whole objective was to clean the neighborhood up. So our women and our children and women and children could be safe walking down the street. And nobody would say anything to them, nobody would bother them, you understand? And our people were respected. And that's what we were about, establishing that respect, for Islam and for Muslims.
I call myself a movement child. I was born 55 year the Civil Rights Movement started. One of the things that was different for me is that I was transferred to a school that was predominantly white early in maybe 6th grade, and so I developed a close relationship with white people. And so when the nation, they used to call it fishing, they would come and get us off the corners and take us to the temple. And so when they would say, white man is the devil and this and that, and I would say, wait a minute, Sandy's not a devil, or Greg's not a devil.
We go to the court, right? And when we go to the court, the judge say, you want your name changed to F-U-R-Q-A-N, and you want your last name changed to M-U-H-A-M-M-A-D. I really feel sorry for you. And I know your mother, she's mad with you. I mean, he said this, everybody who's sitting in the courtroom can hear this. He said, I don't want to do it, but we're going to grant it. But I think you're making a great mistake,
People would come, men and women would go to the masjid to take shahada, and they would receive instruction in aqidah and salah and all of the things that we're supposed to know as Muslims. But also, in the masjid, they would have history classes, like J.A. Rogers, studying black history and all of that type of thing, because the Muslim African Americans understood that the reason why we were Muslim, Allah had guided us to Islam, for not only for us personally, but as a means of lifting up black people from out of their condition. So when you study all of the major African American Muslim leaders of that time, they were all into being Muslim, but also uplifting black people.
African American Muslims. Perhaps no single figure is more widely associated with this group in the world's eyes than Malcolm X. Freedom fighter, paragon of self-transformation, martyr.
Malcolm was a very good brother. Malcolm did all that he could do with what he had.
I'm a Muslim. I believe in the religion of Islam, which believes in brotherhood, complete brotherhood of all people.
People are jealous of you sometimes, and they can't sit down and talk to you. The only thing you can do is be violent, So everyone that came to us might have been there to spy on us and take back to somebody else. But if anyone did anything wrong, they were not of us.
But what words come to our minds when we think beyond him, before him, after him?
Muhammad Ali would come to our apartment in Harlem once Imam Jamil and I moved to Harlem. He would come and he would walk the streets with Imam Jamil, and Muhammad Ali would walk the streets of Harlem because Imam Jamil would always remind Muhammad Ali, it's the masses of people the masses are supporting you. Those are your supporters.
Yeah, when I met him, he had just turned professional fighter.
Okay.
So I began to train his mind toward Islam. And I taught him the tricks, the trades of the streets. I learned him the streets so he couldn't get tricked in the streets, Couldn't nobody put a baby on him here and there. Couldn't nobody swindle him with selling him some fake stuff, investments and stuff. So I trained him in that way. I trained him to love Islam.
Do we know the African American Muslims next door? Do we know what they have been experiencing here in Atlanta or back home before they came here? How have they helped to make this city the Black Mecca and the city too busy to hate?
Thurgood Marshall, who became the first African-American Supreme Court justice, was heading the LDF, what we call LDF, the Legal Defense Fund. And he wanted to hire my mother to be in charge of all of the, as the head of the payroll department. But she had to be bonded. And so when he said to her, "Are you bonded?" and she said no, he said, "Well, no problem, you have your green card." And she said, "I don't have my green card either." So he found some program, and he hired my mother, and that was in 1959. And then I became the babysitter for Thurgood Marshall and most of the African-American attorneys and those who became judges in New York City.
When we came to Atlanta, it was maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, as you could say, against the world. When I saw Elijah's people with the clean shaven and the shark skin suits and the bow ties and the regimentation, it just didn't register to me. So I still continued to look until I found, the Sunni. And it just so happened to be a small contingency. DAW was the national movement at that time.
As the 1960s opened, Muslim identity was gaining status in Black Atlanta. Yet Muslims who were African American were being increasingly viewed as a threat by mainstream commentators and political operatives around the country. This was especially true of J. Edgar Hoover's FBI and its COINTELPRO agents. Whether an activist was in the Nation of Islam or more classically oriented groups like the Darul Islam, their criticisms of human rights violations in and by the United States were used to legitimate monitoring and harassment. Scholars, activists, and the congressional investigation now known as the Church Commission have rightly criticized the Bureau's use of strategies that can best be summarized as beyond the pale of moral and legal legitimacy.
It had to be 1959, 1960. He was, his father was arrested years early for not registering for the draft. Well, Imam was also arrested. I was arrested too for the very same reason, not submitting to the draft for the U.S. Army. His father was sentenced to 5 years. The Imam was sentenced to 3 years. I was sentenced to 1 year.
When I started listening or going to the temple, as they called it at that time, the FBI started threatening my mother. Come to her house every week asking for me, like I had done something wrong. And I wasn't living at home, when I came in. So she was scared. She was really scared. And I said, "Mother, just tell him I don't live there, and don't come back no more, If I've done something wrong, deal with me, but don't come there bothering her." And she was afraid to do that. But it worried her so much, she finally told them, and they never came back.
I'm the only child of my mother. They came to my mother's house and said, "We've got news that he's associated with the Panthers and he's armed, and we're fearful that we're gonna have a shootout when we catch him, so please tell him where he is." That's a heck of a thing to tell a mother who only has one child. And my father stood up then and said, "Listen, we told you, we don't know where it is. Don't come out here messing with my wife anymore." And they stopped, but they followed me for years.
When it came to self-defense during America's most tumultuous years, most African American Muslim groups were willing to respond to violence with violence. As a result, African American Muslims were portrayed as brainwashed or mentally unfit or even irrationally aggressive. Even today, this stigma continues to haunt the community.
And understand, during that period of time, we didn't want to embarrass the civil rights movement. And when I say embarrass, if they were going to do a walk, and if their pledge in their walk was that if somebody spit on you, we're not going to fight them. If somebody hit you, we're not going to fight back. we would excuse ourselves in that because we know we couldn't live up to that. You know, that we're not gonna go out in the street with a mentality that we nonviolent. No, we are nonviolent until our enemy become nonviolent, but our religion gives us the right to defend ourselves if someone is aggressive toward us. So a lot of times, I remember Jose William asking me to march with him in Forsyth, Georgia. I said, Jose, you know I love you. But Jose, you got some principle that you're asking people to make a commitment to. I would break that commitment and embarrass you. So I have to help you from another angle.
This day will be the most unforgettable day in my whole life. It's a day that I still have not believed. I still not can believe somebody's crazy enough to kill Dr. King, who wouldn't hurt anybody, but loved everybody, and really gave his life to the salvation of this nation.
The judge say, before we go any further with this case, and he said, I want this nigga to have a psychiatric examination. So UW Clemens, who was the Supreme Court judge that I had gone to school with, finished Columbia, stepped on my foot because I was getting ready to, man, what the fuck you doing? Yeah. And he said, don't say nothing. He called me back. They had just incarcerated Angela. Angela Davis, who was my high school sweetheart, said this recently. She said, you know, a revolutionary never stops. He said, what the federal government can do when they ask for this examination, he said they can incarcerate you and don't give you no bond till they get ready to give you the exam. So they're gonna play off like I'm crazy.
Yet at the same time that African American Muslims were being stigmatized, their self-discipline and organizational capacities garnered a grudging respect, even from many who opposed them. Thus, some authorities became willing to accommodate Muslim demands and requests. That African American Muslims were accorded such respect outside of the black community translated into them receiving even more respect inside of the black community.
Now, look, now when this brother was down in, had him locked up in Cordell, Georgia, I went down there to see him, you know. So I come in there to the jail, I said, sheriff sitting at the desk. He said, what you want? I said, I come to see Hugh Tenner. He said, who are you? I saw him as minister, just like that. This is kind of way the tone it was in. And when I saw him as minister, you should have seen all the wind come out that cracker. He just got humble as he could be. So he showed me where it was. Otherwise, he must say, if this nigga done kill my sheriff deputy upstairs, his boss come in here, he must be better than the one upstairs. So he let me see the brother. So the brother told me this. He said, Brother Mills, I got this, don't worry. He telling me, I'm worried. He said, but I just can't get nothing to eat right, you know. Stuff they said. He said, if I had a little pot, so I can have and fix my own beans soup, I'd be all right. So I went down there and told the sheriff. I said, Sheriff, I said, the stuff y'all feeding him ain't right for my brother got a different eating habit. I said, would you allow me to put a hot plate in his cell and give him some navy beans so he can make him some soup? Yes, well, quite all right. That don't happen, brother, nowhere. He let me do it. He let me do it, that's what I'm telling you. Now I know Allah's God. This don't happen. Let a man put a hot plate in his cell and cook his own food, and he there for murder? They got him charged for murder? Oh, Allah's God, man.
We had a confrontation with the police officer, you know, and it was a bad experience at the time. You know, we had to fight the police officers, you know, and when we was arrested, you know, the officers wanted to pull us out one by one and whip us. And by me being the first officer, you know, I had to direct the brothers as to how to handle things. And the way that we did was when they came after us, after arresting us, I mentioned to them that we would go in our cells, providing that they would put all of us in the same dormitory, the cell block. And they did. And they respected us just that much because we stood up. And we were able to get food brought in to us, books, and the person who was in charge of the cell block, the officer there said to us, "I wish that I had more prisoners like you all."
You know, in the prison, we had our own radio station where Quran and Hadith was playing all day long if you wanted to hear it. The radio channels in the cell, you could turn the cell, okay, Hadith heard that, okay, Quran, I want to listen to the Quran. The Quran was on a tape and it was being recited out throughout the day. A lot of the people who were in there were people who used to be in the nationalist movement. So they already knew us, and they knew that we now had become Muslim. So they wanted to follow the trend, okay, and they wanted to become Muslim. So they did. And when they went to the other prisons, you know, around the state, then they start asking for us to come in because they had foreigners and people coming in who couldn't relate to them as an African American. So they wanted somebody who could relate to their problems, who had their similar experiences and background, to be the ones that was going to minister to them.
Then and now, African American Muslims have used the respect that they earned as a form of capital. They have been investing that capital in the work of liberating and comforting oppressed people, starting with other African American people. And Atlanta's African American Muslims have always played their role in this work too.
Our leader and teacher was coming down to Atlanta, Georgia to speak. And the Ku Klux Klan told him he better not come down here or we'll take care of him. I was 3 months pregnant. I wasn't going. When the Ku Klux Klan said that, everybody that wasn't going came to Georgia. And the place that they had gotten for the meeting, they changed it. They wouldn't let us have it. It was a large place. And they gave us a little small place where no one could fit in to hear him speak except visitors. All over Atlanta, coming through the streets in the cab, you could hear the broadcast.
When we pulled up in our buses, the folks all around this place where he was to speak, African Americans, they were opening up their homes, inviting us to come in, to sleep, to shower, to stay there, have food if we wanted. You know, and I'm from Chicago. It gets so cold in Chicago, you know, you can hardly speak to people on the street when it gets cold. But I saw all the warmth in the people here in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, they have invested this capital in building positive relationships with successive regimes of local leadership, and in ongoing relationships with activist leaders at the national level.
There was a good relationship between members of the black clergy and church and its memberships in the Nation of Islam, because the members of the Nation of Islam was being, back during the civil rights time and that era and stuff, we were being discriminated against, you know, and there's this affinity between folks who are oppressed, even though you may not have the same ideology, but your oppression is the same.
I gave a Black Family Day bazaar. I think it was in 1974 at Lakewood Fairground. I had 23,000 people to come through there. Martin Luther King's mother was there and his father was there. I had Maynard Jackson there. I had Muhammad Ali there. And Maynard put his trumps on and Ali they got in the ring together. So this was part of the show, you know. I mean, Ali pretend to let Maynard knock him out and all of that. So it was a lot of fun, man. And he thanked me they told me to thank Ali for letting him look good.
I was very respectful of the mayor, you know, Maynard Jackson, but I'd be walking downtown Peachtree Street and he would see me, he'd be in his car, he would stop his car in the middle of the street, and I was very comfortable with just saying good morning. But he would get out of his car and before I could say it, he would be saying, Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
When he got out of New York prison, in October 76, I knew I had to do a lot here to get him paroled here. So Maynard Jackson, Andy Young, Marvin Arrington, all of them, I got all of them to write letters to say he's welcomed here in Atlanta, it's no problem.
And we believe that the civil rights movement increased because of us. It is like saying to the world, do you want these people to become part of the civil rights struggle, or do you want them to be part of the Nation of Islam? So we were like a booth. And many people who we work with the civil rights movement, but there were people who would work with us, but they didn't want to identify with us. In other words, if somebody came and got ready to take a picture, they don't want to take a picture. We love you, we want to work with you, but we don't need that pressure. Why are you standing with the black Muslim? Or why are you with the Muslim? But we were very instrumental in the civil rights movement because our concept was that there are rights before civil rights, and those are human rights, and these are rights that God gives you. So we took it even a step further before the civil rights. And then we always fought the concept of this black inferiority and this white superiority. So we always was against that. So again, this attitude of having no fear, because we didn't have any fear. And people who knew us know that we didn't have any fear. And that's very important, that you don't have fear when you're out on the street and you're dealing with making statement or somebody taking your picture, that you don't apologize for none of this. So again, our presence, more than anything, represents security. And what I mean by that, the civil rights movement know if we was on the scene, that we got some brothers that would throw down if things get, these people are not nonviolent, so they kind of feel very protected too.
One thing that I realized is that back then there was more of an acknowledgement of the work that he did, that many people would not be where they are if he and SNCC and others did not push for a certain change. And I'm saying that because Imam Jamil, even in 1968, went to Martin Luther King. He, Stokely, and James Foreman went to Martin Luther King to get him to make a statement against the Vietnam War. And he would not make a statement. He told them, I will not make a statement, I will not come out. But then if we look at, I think, Eyes on the Prize or some of the other films, we'll see where he invited Stokely, Kwame Ture, to the church when he came out against Vietnam. So because of the work that Imam Jamil did here in Atlanta with SNCC, and because of his national presence, politically here, it was more welcoming for him.
As a result, the African American Muslims of Atlanta stand on a firm foundation that is over 50 years old. They use it to welcome new Atlantans. They use it to start new business ventures and to support established ones. They use it to elevate women, to heal hearts, and to develop the potential of everyone.
I think Atlanta right now probably is just one of the strongest of all Islam in America. I think Atlanta for its Muslims, the number of Muslims, I think we probably have more.
So I would like to think that, all of you who have come together, who are practicing your Islam, who are studying, who have the knowledge, will take root in a community, whether it be our community or any other community, and stay and grow so that your children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren will still be practicing Islam here in Atlanta.
Every time I see an African American on the street selling jeans or selling bags, I always say they got that from us. Because we were the first one that would go on the street. Since you won't give me a job, I'm gonna give myself a job. I'm gonna be a street vendor. Before I beg, I'll be reduced to less than a man. And I think people need to be aware, I don't care who you are, if you set up any type of vending, you African American, you indebted to the Nation of Islam because we opened that door.
If you walk down a street and the female is identified as a Muslim, we will not be harassed in an African American community. They may go to another woman and mistreat another woman, but it's, how you doing, sister?
And to this day, our kids are safe because of what we did then. Our women are safe because of what we did then. They won't come nowhere near them. They are safe. And that was 40 years ago or more. They're safe because we made it clear, do not disrespect these women. And it didn't have nothing to do with this being Muslim. It was any woman, because women couldn't stand on the bus stop, man, without being assaulted.
It took me 30 years to realize by hating, it only takes 8 muscles in the face to frown, to smile. It takes 88 to frown. So when I'm sitting up there, I ain't doing nothing but rusting my heart and making myself look ugly.
Everyone is trying to do the best they can. So you have to understand that all of us are individuals. We try to do the best we can. We're put in positions sometimes because there's no one else and you're the best one. So you could work, and as you work, you will develop if you have the right thing in your heart, you know. So you might last 3 months or whatever, and maybe you're sent to someplace else where you can start it. Maybe you have the ability to start it, but not maintain it. You know what I'm saying? So to build our community, we use everybody. You know, in the best manner. I don't mean in the best manner.
Beyond what we could show you in this brief program, we invite you to ask about how Atlanta's African American Muslims are contributing to independent schooling and food security, to interfaith relations and racial and ethnic harmony, well beyond just black and white. The After Malcolm Digital Archive team is currently documenting these efforts and wants everyone to know how far we have come and to have an idea of just how far we can go.